We're talking week 11 college football favorites. Last week, Jake, I went 4-5 on my BroThrow picks. You went 4-3. My weekend was a lot worse than 4-5. It was definitely a regression day for me, and I really need to pick it back up. Overall, I'm 42-38, so plus 4 units on my BroThrow picks. You're 42-32, so you're plus 10 units overall. You're actually crushing it.
Been a very successful season on college football picks. This past week was actually amazing for me gambling wise. I had a huge NBA parlay, so we're riding, rocking, and rolling headed into week 11. I'm excited to talk about some favorites with you.
Well, it starts off, Tennessee is at Missouri. I didn't bet the Missouri-Georgia game last week. I was too nervous to. I thought, there's no way Missouri's going to be able to keep up. And then they did. They ended up covering that. This week, they're taking on a really strong Tennessee defense. And Mizzou, as we know, has an electric offense. We already watched them take down Kansas State at home, and then they lost a close one to LSU. But this Tennessee defense is a different beast than both of those teams. And before this line came out, I'm not sure how you felt about it, but I thought it'd be something closer to Mizzou -3 since they came off a big loss. Tennessee came off a big win. And then next week, they got to play Georgia at home. So the -1 is really surprising me. But Tennessee getting that much love in a look-ahead spot on the road just means that they're probably that much better of a team than Missouri is on paper. And Vegas thinks that Heupel's team is still a threat to win the East since they get Georgia at home and then they end the year with Vandy, which I think we both would consider a free win. Now, bottom line is Missouri's still motivated, but their loss to Georgia ended the SEC championship hopes. So even if they were going to want to win at home, it's just a different level of motivation that Tennessee's bringing to the table since there's so much more on the line for them. I just think they're going to come out focused on the task at hand, and they're going to be able to win this one outright, so I can lay 1 point.
I agree with you on that, in that I expected Mizzou to be about a 3-point favorite in this game. They've been very solid all season. As you said, Brady Cook has probably been the most improved quarterback in the entire country. So it's tough to look at this game and be like, wait, Mizzou is a dog at home and not instantly want to jump on them. So probably the sharp pick, as you're saying, is Tennessee. They're more motivated. I hate betting on Joe Milton. I really don't like him as a quarterback, but this bet is all about the defense. So I'm going to trust you, and I think Tennessee's probably the sharp pick here.
Well, here's one that's got to be another close game, a close finish because Iowa's playing in it. Every single week, it seems like Iowa manages to come out on top, but the spreads are always pretty low for good reason. So what do you think about this one?
They're low because each point is so incrementally valuable in these Iowa games because there's barely any to have. Last week, the over-under was 30.5. We were on that under. It hits. This week, the under is 29, the lowest in the history of college football. And guess what? I'm on the under again, and I'm on Iowa because their defense is absolutely electric. They barely give up any points. Rutgers' offense as a whole is pretty nondescript. They're decent running the ball with Monangai. Their quarterback, Wimsatt, is okay. He has the potential to make some big highlight plays, but also the potential to make some highlight mistakes. And I think Iowa's just too well coached. They're functioning too well. And as I've said in previous videos, they thrive in games like this. This is the environment they want to play in. They want to play a game where they run the ball to get 2 first downs, punt it, get a stop, get it back, and keep running it. I just don't really know how Rutgers is going to put up points on this Iowa defense. I think that Iowa's going to be able to put up 10-13. That's what they've been able to do most of these weeks. And I think Iowa rolls to another victory while the under hits.
Yeah, I made the mistake of trusting Iowa to cover 5 last week because why are they going to cover 5? They only win games by 1, 2, or 3 usually. But I think they are a team who can score just enough to cover 1 point because it's basically a money line play. Or worst case, I guess it would be a push. But I like Rutgers this year. Iowa's defense seems like they're going to give their offense problems. All those points you mentioned were solid. So I'm going to follow you on this play. I'm going to ride Iowa. If it was a bigger spread, I'd have to stay away. But I'm going to trust Iowa in this spot. Especially because they're still fighting to win the Big Ten West. A win here preserves that hope.
They have an outright lead in the West right now, but because they still have to play Nebraska, who's behind them, if Nebraska wins that game, Nebraska win the tiebreaker. So it is essential for Iowa to keep stacking up wins.
Yeah, they're definitely motivated. Next is Pitt at Syracuse. Syracuse is getting 3 points. This is not a home game technically. It's at Yankee Stadium. And I had high hopes for both these teams to start the year. I think you might have liked Syracuse too. They had a good defense. But now Cuse only has 1 Power 5 win, and it came over Purdue, who's pretty damn bad. Pitt actually took down a top 15 Louisville team by 17 just 2 weeks ago. And I know Cuse has the better record, but they've played a way easier schedule with, I think, Army and Colgate in there. So Pitt's taken on back-to-back big games against Notre Dame and Florida State, and they're up for a much easier test against an offense that ranks in the bottom 30 nationally. So because this line opened at 1.5, it's already moved to 3. I'm going to get on it early. I'm going to expect Pitt to come out pissed off after they played those really tough opponents. And now that they have a chance to prove themselves and prove that they're better than their record says they are, I think this is a great spot for them.
Pitt is such an odd team because they're only 2-7, yet as you said, they beat Louisville and looked very convincing in that game. Cuse 0-5 in Big East or ACC play. It's tough to see them. It's tough to see them getting a win here. Pitt has the better defense, in my opinion. They have the better quarterback, so I would ride with them too in this neutral site spot.
This is a tougher one. Florida is at LSU. It's a rivalry matchup. It's going to be a night game in Death Valley. It started off at 14. It moved to 13.5. You obviously like LSU here. What's the thinking?
The thinking is that when Brian Kelly loses a game, the next 2 weeks, his team always comes pissed off, ready to play. That's one of the things I respect about him as a coach is you can tell after a loss, he goes super hard in practice, getting these guys motivated for the next game. LSU's offense is still one of the best in the country this season. They're number 3 in the country in scoring. And Florida's defense is really nothing too special. They just gave up almost 40 points last week to Arkansas. It's trouble scoring on a lot of other teams this season. I think LSU is going to put up points with ease. I really don't think they're going to have much issues on the offensive side of the ball. You got Graham Mertz at quarterback for Florida. Again, he's always a great person to fade. I see LSU being able to get a couple turnovers, being able to get a few stops on Florida's offense. And Florida's offense likes to be more of a run-heavy, ball control offense. I don't think they're able to do that in this game as it turns into a shootout. As Death Valley gets super loud, LSU is going to roll here.
That's the problem. Florida isn't built to play in a shootout. They're built to run the ball. They don't have a game-changing quarterback and receivers who can light it up the way LSU does. Like you said, Florida gave up almost 500 yards of offense to an Arkansas team that was held to 3 at home by Mississippi State. So even though LSU has no defense, their offense might be able to score 50, and I know that Mertz can't keep up with that. It's a huge bounce-back opportunity for LSU. Florida has to get one more win for a bowl game, so there's obviously a motivating factor there. I don't think it's going to happen in Death Valley at night. Next is Oklahoma State at UCF. UCF is getting 2.5 points. Feels like a trap line. It's the perfect spot for a letdown after a huge win over Oklahoma in that Bedlam game. I think the final Bedlam game. This line, like I said, makes no sense. And UCF's only won a single game in the last 6. Oklahoma obviously is on a massive hot streak, and I think they're tied or they are in first in the Big 12 right now with Texas. So it's a big spot for them. I think they should be at least a 4.5 point favorite. So even though I'd usually say this is a stay away, last week I tried to be too smart. Last week I said, I'm going to go ahead and fade Kansas. Kansas is the better team, but the line doesn't make sense. I'm going to be the sharp here with Jake, and I'm going to take Iowa State. Things didn't work out for me then, and I'm not going to fall for the trap this time. Oklahoma State has been really good. They've got a decent defense. They can score a lot of points. I think the game will be close, but not closer than 3. So I'm going to give 2.5 points. I'm going to expect them to win this one by at least 5, 6, 7 maybe. UCF's not that good of a team, and they're going to end up going to the Big 12 championship.
Oklahoma State, if you were to tell me it was going to be 100% focused and locked in for this game, I think they'd beat UCF by 14-20. I think they're a much better team. They have one of the best running games in the entire country. Ollie Gordon II is probably the favorite for the Doak Walker Award. He might be the best back in the country. And that's saying a lot because there's a lot of really good running backs this season. UCF has a very strong offense. Gus Malzahn is the coach. Their teams are always going to be able to score and put up points. But I just think that Oklahoma State is playing too well right now. I think Gundy knows how to keep a team motivated after a big win like Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma State's going to roll in this game. They're playing really, really well right now.
I think the main point for Oklahoma State is that they started off slow. They lost 2 games early. One of them was to South Alabama at home, and it wasn't like a close loss. They got beat the hell down. It was embarrassing because they already went through the adversity, and because now they figured out what works for them on offense. I think they're just starting to trend up, and they're a motivated team who knows they should play in the Big 12 championship this year. So they're not going to let a UCF team who, I don't want to say they're bad because they've been okay. They're not going to let them spoil the party. Next is Arizona at Colorado. Colorado getting 10.5 points at home. Another could be letdown spot for Arizona. You know, Arizona's coming off 2 huge wins over Oregon State and UCLA at home. Unfortunately, I faded Arizona back-to-back weeks, and I can promise you I will not be doing that again.
Arizona is actually the best team in the country against the spread. They only have lost 1 time this year against the spread. So that's a nice little trend to keep track of. But really, Arizona, ever since their quarterback Jade Delora got hurt and they had to go to Noah Fafita, have been absolutely phenomenal on offense. He has completely changed the game for them as a team, which is kind of surprising, as I thought that Jaden was a pretty good quarterback for Arizona before. But the team looks completely night and day different. Colorado continues to have one of, if not the worst defense in the entire country, especially amongst Power 5 teams. And I think Arizona's just rolling too well. I don't care that they're on the road. Their defense is really good. Their offense is really good. And they're just playing really, really strong football right now. Deion's team is kind of in a little bit of a free fall. He demoted their offensive coordinator, Sean Lewis, last week. Didn't really do much good. They still weren't able to pick up points. The issue has and always will continue to be the defense for Colorado. I don't know how they're going to fix that in this week, as they haven't been able to fix that this entire season. So I'll lay the 10.5 here. It's a lot of points on the road, but Arizona's just a wagon right now.
Yeah, is Colorado going to bounce back is the question. Do they have enough motivation? Because they're probably not going to a bowl game. A loss this week, I think, solidifies that they're not going to a bowl. They only have 4 wins, and they might have one more against Washington State coming up in the next couple weeks here. But outside of that, they play a really tough end of the season schedule. So the party is stopped for them. Arizona, on the other hand, like you mentioned, their backup QB came in. Not sure if you knew this, but that QB, Fafita, he was a high school teammate of McMillan, who's one of their top receivers. So he came in right away. They already had the chemistry, and things just worked out well. And another fun fact, they both played at my high school. So that's how I know that information. Anyway,
that's how you get the deep dives on this channel.
Exactly. That's why I knew it. But anyway, if you want to bet on any of the picks we talked about today, if you want to bet NFL or any other sport, you can get even odds on BroThrow at plus 100. You see on the screen, I've got the 10.5 for plus 100, which means if you bet Arizona at 10.5 for $50, you win 50. You don't pay a vig. And BroThrow's free to sign up for in any state in the US. So you just click the link in the description box below. It's brothrow.com/YouTube, and you'll get to check out where Jake and I make all of our bets to get better odds than we would be able to find anywhere else. Jake, that was our favorites video. I actually like these picks, and I feel really confident about them. Last week, I was down bad, but this week I feel like things are going to look up.
Yeah, we're due for a hot week, but I'll catch you in the underdogs video.
All right, talk soon.